but today I didn't prepare a question. So, does any of you want to start with the intro question for today, or any like topic that we can discuss about?
I have a question. Um, I'm curious. It's just something that's been kind of running through my head lately. I'm curious about people's experience with decentralized organizations in like meat space, like in real life. I'd love to hear anyone's thoughts on that, really. Should I start by like talking about that? Okay. Um, yeah, so like I've definitely had some, I've been around some intentional communities um, and then some more decentralized things, like rainbow gatherings, um, and like the rainbow family, and there's some other kind of cultures that maybe are run parallel tracks or are analogous, um, sort of not. Anyways, I just have thought a lot about, in blockchain, we're always talking about blockchain consensus, but like in, traditional communities, consensus means that everybody agrees. And so like if if you wanted to use like a consensus, with you could sit in a circle and you're trying to make a decision, and then you just don't, and you pass a feather or stick or whatever so that the person who's talking has the floor, and then when you get, you do a round of introductions, and then you proceed with like talking, each person sharing, and then you just don't stop until everyone agrees on the next decision. And and there's something really powerful about that idea, like compared to democracy, where a majority or some legal majority of people make a decision that affects everybody. Um, and obviously that scales a little more easily than just like, but there's something really powerful about everybody having to agree, and you might not get like what you wanted originally, but and there's some, there are some ways that can be kind of attacked or exploited with people who will just like, anyways, um, I don't know, just food for thought, I guess. Um, and I don't know if anybody
You,
wants to
you can
help.
pass it.
I could pass it. Okay. Durgadas.
So we're just checking in, or what are we doing?
Talking about thoughts on decentralized, distributed community collective organizations in meat space.
Yeah, I think I shared some links recently about deliberately developmental organizations, and I included a couple of there's like 3 videos. There are a lot longer ones, but there's like 2 like 3 or 4 minute videos, and then one that's like 30 minutes or 25 minutes. It's pretty easy to get through. Right now, that's my ideal setup, because it seems to me that and I actually did a podcast with somebody from Metagame today about this, where it seems to me that when things become too centralized, it's almost oppressive, right? And so that when we're like, okay, let's break out of that, let's get into this decentralized work. But then um, a lot of times we're just doing that kind of for its own sake in some ways. So I think what we really want to be able to do is to have the freedom to kind of a container in which we can all sort of be developmentally assisted. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that we do in Gravity, for example, is based on things that if you look at it properly, it would actually look to be developmentally oriented. Very much so, for all the participants and for the overall community. And so my thought was just, why don't we just be really intentional about that and figure out what the process by which we can develop. So if we say we're going to be if we're going to be inclusive, exactly what does that look like? If we're going to be transparent, what does that exactly look like? And Juan actually shared one section of that thing about how all calls and all things for this one organization would be recorded, for example. And so this is the kind of thing I'm for. If you listen to that third video I posted, you guys will see that there's some just super interesting stuff in there. So I just thought, rather than just saying let's all be decentralized and everyone's counts, and I know that for example, the thing that you were just talking about, Dan, they have consensus where they don't leave anyone behind in the Dada group. So I'm a part of that group, and they specifically say that the needs of all the individuals are met by satisfying the needs of the group. So we don't do a thing without sort of bringing everybody forward, and it's almost like a radical consensus in a way, because they're doing it a little bit differently by highly tuning it and making it really, really aligned with all the participants' stuff. So I really agree with that, but it feels like the traditional consensus things need some tuning, and I feel like Dada is doing a really, really good job of making that thing happen. For us, I kind of prefer it. Just, if you guys will look at the videos, I think you'll see that sounds so much more like what we're doing than perhaps like this pure consensus thing that Dada is doing. But that's my current perspective on it, and I'll put in a link where I sort of talk about that at length in the podcast once I get the link for that. I don't know who came, so I'll have to maybe pass it to Jake.
Okay, I apologize too, because now the different perspectives, I'm kind of lost with what was the original question.
Yeah, Jake, that's basically it's just reflections on decentralized organizations in meat space. Your experiences, thoughts, studies, reflections, yes.
Well, given that this is really my first exposure as like what I do now in decentralized anything, and coming from a very centralized world that needed it, that world had to have a pyramid of structure. It had to have a chain of command. That was the only way it could work. And because of the safety features that needed to be in place, and there had to be a responsible party, and that person had to be responsible for those below him. And it's been challenging. It's been very challenging at times, coming from a world that was very much the iron fist hammer down, line after line. Like, this is what we do, and this is what we're going to do, and we're not going to change it any other time, and this is what happens. And it can be very stressful, but at the same time, you can guarantee that the routine will always be the same. So what your duties and responsibilities are don't change. And then it creates an unspoken understanding of how people do it. Because just because it's like this on a wall, like a poster, and it's like, this is what you do, or and somebody shows you, well, this is what we do, you're going to learn your own way of doing it. So nobody cares about that, because that's how you do that thing. And then guys just kind of learn a way to do it within it that is the way. So it's difficult, because I'm still trying to like find this little niche where it's my way of doing it within the space. And it's also very challenging because there is no way. It's just this open space. And it's tough. Honestly, there are a lot of times where I'm just like, I really wish there was a central point of command. Very much so sometimes. So it's challenging. I'm adapting. It's a whole very, very different change of speed and everything for me. Fortunately, crypto's huge. Fortunately, crypto moves very, very fast. So there's other dynamics that I'm like very familiar with that help make up for a lot of that, Whereas like in order to engage and move, people have to react and respond because crypto will not allow you not to. You know what I mean? So at least there's some of those correlations just as an industry in itself that really, really like have helped a lot for me to try and make some balance. Other than that, it really is just like intrinsic logistics of human resources. That's about as best. That's about as corporate as I can make that. Other than that, it's fun. It's really nice to not have the pressures of the bigger fist coming down. It's really nice not to have that anymore. It's a huge relief. But I don't know. There are a lot of other things I do still very much miss right now. But it'll change. I'll adapt. I'll pass it to you, Griff.
Sure. Eating some lunch. Yeah, I think decentralized organizations, I've had a lot of experience playing in these games, and the biggest thing comes down to like, how do you make decisions? I don't know exactly what the game was with Meat Space. I don't see that part in the question, and I haven't had any experience with like local decentralized organizations where lots of people in the same area like co-located and trying to do a decentralized organization, and I think that'd be a different dynamic. But as far as like decentralized along with the locality, decision-making processes are the most important thing, and understanding who makes decisions and when and over what, and having methodologies that will make that flow effortless. I think we do a really good job in the TE Commons, scaling horizontally and making sure that there's people who have a focused understanding of what needs to be done, and are uniquely positioned to actually make sure it happens and have the tools at their disposal, and also the agency to and not only like on the blockchain agency, whatever, right? But actually they feel politically and within the culture and culturally that they have agency to make decisions and get things done, call it done, and move it around. The other important piece is transparency, because if you can't see what other people are doing, we're not co-located. So if you can't see what other people are doing, you end up with a lot of redundancy. You end up with double work. I mean, we still have that, and we try so hard to have everything in ZenHub and have one person assigned to each issue, and we still end up copying work and making content pieces that are almost the same but with different angles. And yeah, it's tough when there's not a central coordinator, but a whole bunch of people kind of flowing on their own. It can be difficult, but I think you just have to make sure and make space for certain things to happen in coordination, and it works out pretty well. I think it's pretty easy to fall into normal tribal like things where there's a chief and then there's like other generals, you could say. And I don't think that that's necessarily so bad, but it's really, once you have the DAO in place and you have like a formalized structure, I think it'll be a lot easier to just say, oh yeah, this is the accountability measures, and the DAO, the blockchain can kind of be the final verdict on how things go, and then it can work from there. Anyway, I'll pass it to Benz. Benz, you're still muted.
If you want, you can try to speak after I finish, and I'll give you some time to tweak your mic. I would say that this is also my first experience in a decentralized organization, but I in the past I tried to enter into another organization, and people told me like they needed programmers and that they don't needed people who is specialized in the social science in social sciences. So I felt a little bit like relegated from that try, but it was really great, and it's something that I admire from the people who framed the concept of token engineering, that it talks about a transdisciplinary field, and I love that because that makes it more much inclusive for people who is not only in certain fields of or in certain areas or petals of the flower, because I see that this comes from a very mature point of view, where you see that not only the things that you know are the things that are important, but also the things that you might don't know, and that we are to complement our different points of view, and that there is not like one uh, line who is going to have the absolute truth. So yeah, for me, the experience that I have had with the TC, it's amazing because I have this sense of belonging to a community and to something bigger. But it's also something that I see that there is still a lot of people that need to comprehend token engineering and this world as something that can have a place for all areas of knowledge and for all types of contributions. And I will pass to Livia.
Thanks, Juan. Yeah, I think there is a difference between I don't know, maybe I'll talk to high level, but I think there is a difference between something that is fragmented and something that is fractalized. I think fragmented, there's not much communication between the parts and a vision of the whole. And I think when it's fractalized, the parts, the individual parts reflect the whole, and there is a communication between them. If you think about, I don't know, like the mycelium network and how all of them are connected and communicating. And I think this is key for understanding the power structures and how they can be decentralized. So one thing that Ostrom talks a lot about is when she talks about mutual monitoring is how information is the biggest power people can have, and that's the highest incentive for people to take part in mutual monitoring, because if they are mutual monitoring each other and they understand how they are acting under a certain type of rules that they made themselves collectively, and they see the behaviors of others, they are observing, therefore they have information that maybe other players don't have, and this gives them a certain advantage. So what we are trying to do is to give plenty of access of information to everyone and quality of information, and that's when transparency comes in. So having agency, like Griff said, is having access to information plus the curiosity to look for it. So externally is availability of intellectual resources, and internally is this drive for wanting to go look for these resources. So I think this combination makes the agency that, if multiple individuals have, will sustain a decentralized environment. And I pass to Sun.
Thank you, Libby. I believe that we are so integrated, or we've been grown and developed on such an integrated, centralized society, that it's not easy to move away from there. And we are not used to take the initiative. We're used to be told what to do and follow the centralization rules on everything that we deal with on our daily life. So right now there's this new way of working, and we need to learn how to do it. We need to experiment. Some of us have been lucky enough to join different DAOs, and the technology and COVID helped on that. The technology of video conferencing, it's right here. You can work with people from all over the world. I've joined TEC and I haven't met anyone in person yet, but that requires you deciding you want to move forward. You want to jump into the unknown, and you taking the lead initially. And that's what needs to be changed. There is so many people used to just join organizations where they are told, and there's a structure and there's a centralized, leadership, that it's kind of hard. They have a hard time trying to fit themselves into these organizations, and this is what's needed. And it's beautiful, but we need to change our way of relationship with the organizations, and that's what's starting to happen right now, and it's great, but it takes a while, because you gotta keep fighting with your all these ideas that you've been living with, and it's not easy to get rid of those. And that's my personal take. I don't know if Jake has gone.
Metaver de Montmanu.
I would love to. I thought it was kind of cute that Griff had commented on content being repeated, but in slightly different angles, and it reminded me of like uncle blocks on the blockchain. Where we have like blocks that are super similar, but only one's the one that's actually carried forward. I really like the decentralized communities, and I would have a hard time maintaining interest in projects that weren't decentralized. Like I actually had a job with One Hive where I was like in BuzzDAO, and after a few months, and it wasn't onerous in any way, but after a few months of that, I was like, oh no, I have a job, I can't do this anymore. And so I had to like quit my BuzzDAO position and give it up to for a vote for someone else. I have a lot of experience with decentralized organizations, in the sense that like I lived in a co-op when I was in college, and that's pretty much decentralized in the day-to-day way that things go. Like people have jobs and stuff, but everything's voted on and chosen by the people in the organization. And then I was involved in a couple of co-ops in Portland, and then like when I've done work, we've thought about and discussed ways to make it like owner or worker owned, and that's a really important form of decentralization that needs to be promoted more. And then last summer, and I'll probably be over my PTSD enough to go in for a few more rounds. I did a lot of direct action, which is a lot of it is just being present. A lot of it is documenting, and then a lot of direct action is like offering resources to marginalized communities. So to me, the decentral, like the thing with information is that it does give you agency, but some of the agency that, I mean, I don't see this in DAOs necessarily, but like with the stuff in real life, a lot of the agency that you can get can actually endanger you. So it's better to not have a lot of information. And that's kind of why I don't pry as much as I should into different working groups. And I'm going to start like being more of a busybody that way and like digging in deeper and seeing how things work. Because in real life, we're very much on a need to know basis. And there's a lot of things that you really don't want to tell people that you're doing when you're working to make the world a better place in some substantive way. And I think that's kind of it. I mean, yeah, information's power, but like, I don't really seek power. I just want to be part of developing this structure, this community, this way of life that that's going to lift us into the next era of how we relate to each other, how we communicate, and how we govern ourselves. So, Zeptimus, have you gone?
No, thank you, Metaverde. Yeah, me as many of you, like this is my first experience, and yeah, it's been incredible. And mostly what Griff and maybe Libby was saying, like the core structure is very important. I'm actually starting to work on another DAO a little bit too, and yeah, like the beginning is like super messy. There is not even GitHub or someplace so you go to start. But yeah, it's been amazing, and I'm really enjoying it. I'll pass it to Manu.
Hey guys, yeah. So in my experience, I've noticed that decentralized organizations are stigmergic as opposed to hierarchical, and it's not something that gets talked about a lot. Perhaps because it's so inherent in the way we organize as social animals. But for those that are not, for those that are not aware of stigmergy, it's a mechanism of indirect coordination in which the trace left by an action in a medium stimulates subsequent actions, right? So think of extreme scaling seen in mass collaborative projects such as Wikipedia, where someone posts something and then there's an editor that does something. I mean, GitHub essentially it's just a stigmergic platform. So it's a class of behavior in which collective activity gets coordinated through an individual's response to and modification of local environment, right? So we have an action that produces a mark on a medium which stimulates further action. And within token engineering, that's what we have tokens for. Tokens are just carriers of information within the system. And the praise mechanism, the governance tokens, the monetary value that CSDK tokens are going to have, they're just really stigmergic mediums. And really understanding this new type of collaboration that greatly differs from hierarchical and is more polycentric, I think it's key to optimizing the way we produce value within the community. I think it's something that does not get approached or studied enough, and it's something that I'm very okay. So I'm gonna pass it to, I think, Dan. Have you gone, Or yeah, you actually asked a question. What about you, Ben? Have you gone? Yeah, you've gone. I
Hey,
think.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm doing this on my phone and it's not cooperating. So, yeah, so I'm currently working for a government public health agency. So as you can imagine, very centralized, bureaucratic. Someone mentioned earlier, it's you know, they were coming from a centralized background, but it was very fast moving. This is very centralized and slow. And I think that's why kind of so working in public health through COVID, it's like it has just highlighted some of the issues with coordinating and cooperating, you know, across these giant groups. And um, throughout this year, I've kind of been looking um, kind of a little bit burnout and cynical about those structures. So just I've been exploring these other things, and so that I have no experience working in a decentralized organization, but I'm really fascinated how it works. And yeah, I mean, I think you know, Meta Verde, you said that knowledge is power, and that's not you know, that's not really the game that the people in this space are playing, but the people outside it still are. So there's some, you know, you said you might be hesitant to talk about the things you're doing and the things you're working towards, and that makes sense. If those people aren't playing that same game, you know, that could be used for them to gain power too. So I don't know. Different topic, I guess, but
Yeah, knowledge can get you killed is what I was trying to get to.
yeah. Anyway,
Awesome. Yeah, I think I was a little surprised Griff didn't have any reflections, because I've heard you mention about being involved with Burning Man, so I thought maybe that would be some good fodder for, you know, decentralized organizations. But I think that there's a lot more ways that decentralization impacts us in the real world than we really recognize immediately. And I don't remember who said it, but someone, you know, we are mentioned that we are set up in this very authoritative structure. That's something that Marshall Rosenberg talks about a lot, and I think Gravity will get into more as time goes on. Juan, do you have any? Juan Carlos, do you have anything for us right now?
Well, no, I am super excited about the differences and the similitudes that we have showed in this group, because there are people with a lot of experience, like Metaverde and Grief, but there are also people with less experience. And I think it's very nice that we are complementing like experience with curiosity as well, and that the people that has experience is not being like, yeah, I have experience and I'm being selfish with what I have learned, but that we are all learning in this moment, and that we all are seeing this change and from the traditional world and way of organizing, and getting to understand this something that is a nascent field, and that there are no uh, like other things that we can have comparisons to. I mean, like right now we can compare ourselves to the DAO experience, but when the DAO experience happened, like it didn't have any point of comparison. And maybe we can have like 1 or 2 points of comparisons, but they are like really new and recent. Correct me if I'm wrong, Griff, but you told me like there are few organizations that have successfully implemented a bonding curve, and that like one of them is Nexus Mutual, and that there are few organizations, and that what we're doing is super like on the frontier, not only of knowledge and of technical knowledge, but it's also being complemented with something very open, and with the whole cultural build that is super interesting, and that is like something that adds so much value as a repeatable pattern. Um, of the way of making commons around things, and that it would be super great if we can continue making commons out of things, the way that we are doing a commons out of token engineering. And yeah, I that's like the reflection I have from this question. Does anyone want to say something else, or we can jump to the topics? We are like a little bit late in the call, but we don't have any hurry.
I was just going to say that so much of what you guys were reflecting on, I actually do feel like this deliberately developmental organization idea is not, it's like the evolved version of the DAO. It's not necessarily something that, see, what I hear also, just to be, when I lived in an ashram, we often kind of reflected on how awesome it was to live there and how cool everything was. And there's this sort of story we keep telling ourselves about how how great it all is, and so on. But I do think it's important to keep in mind that there are potentially other things that we could evolve into. A lot of the things that I read in the DDO space sound like what Livy's talking about around fractalizing and this kind of thing. So, and it's also true that I felt myself sort of reacting against the centralized idea, and it's like, yay, decentralization. But I think that we need to keep in mind that once we're decentralized, we do have freedom of movement, this freedom of idea and thinking. We're going to want to go somewhere with that, and we're going to want to evolve, further into that. And so I'm just suggesting that once we get into that situation, to be prepared to succeed, maybe in a way that perhaps we didn't think about previously. That's it.
Yeah, I think we can put the developmental organization on the list of topics to explore. At least I know I'm interested.
Okay, now let's get into the more working part of this call. And we were talking in transparency that it's recommended that the working group calls have a moderator, and this working group currently doesn't have a moderator. So I want to know if anyone wants to be the moderator of this call, and what that means is that this person can help me, if there is any intruders in the call, or maybe if I am talking too much, or I am like exceeding times, or like things are going through the branches. Like this moderator can lead the discussion and say like hey, let's move to that point. He or she can also help me if one day I cannot do this call, and I can rely on the moderator to lead this call, and also to keep track of praise, because I have seen that it's been like a little bit hard for me to dish praise in the moment of this call. So I would also like appreciate help from the moderator in this. So anyone wants to be the moderator?
Woohoo! You're muted, Manu.
You're muted.
Oops. Yeah, so I would say, I want to be a moderator. As I expressed, I want to be more involved in this group because it's something I'm familiar with in terms of communication, influence, and conflict management. I think something that also does not get talked about a lot is we have a lot of psychological biases, maybe thought of as bugs, and these are things that kind of short circuit our interactions with our people, and that's something that I think also would be interesting exploring going on. But I don't want to as you know, want to be a moderator. I don't want to talk out of turn. There's an agenda, but yeah, I volunteer.
Yeah, I second that, Manu.
Thanks.
I'd like to talk to you separately about that, if we could, after the call.
I'm very interested in the way you talked about non-duality, and you bring in a very interesting like spiritual perspective into this. I'm very interested in that as well, and I'd like to talk to you about that too, separately.
Thank you.
Yes, Livy?
I don't know. I just want to raise a point that might not be so welcome, but do you think it would be important to have a graviton being the moderator, or what is the shape that gravity calls are taking, particularly towards the gravitons that completed the training, and if there is perhaps points of each section that was discussed during the trainings that can be like brought back, and if it's valuable or not to have some type of separation between the involvement that gravitons have rather than people that didn't go through the training, or how people that didn't go through this training can support in the best way, and perhaps be the moderator, but what type of knowledge does this person has to have, and how to shape the path moving forward.
That is like an amazing point, Livy. And I was thinking that, maybe it would be really good if we can have like something organized around this. But my first idea would be that this call is public, because it's for the workflow and roadmap of Gravity as a working group. But the call with gravitons can be like confidential, and can follow different like procedures that the ones that this call has. Because maybe if when we have like a graviton call with a proper to talk about a conflict, maybe we wouldn't use Discord. And I think that maybe the moderator can be like for this call that is public, but for sure we can have like when there are more like things to do, like on the execution part, we can have like another meeting that is especially focused on the conflict management part. Okay. And
If I can just ask really quick, when is the next Graviton training, Juan Carlos? Summer?
We haven't talked about it yet. We are like planning, and we are still polishing certain things. And yeah, we want also to engage other communities in this new training. So it would be very good if we can have like a very diverse um, target, because right now mainly the gravitons are from the TC, and it would be really great if we can have gravitons from other communities. So we are making this like lobby and also like consolidating the first generation of gravitons, so that yeah, we can keep moving. So that's why it's so important. The next point of the agenda, that is the gravity survey. And I don't know that Dan, if you want to show some of the updates of the gravity survey, I can share the screen, or you can do it as well.
Sure. And I just wanted to say, I did DM Manu playlist to the Graviton training, so that will be a good place to catch up. Besides that, yeah, let me share my screen. Have this gravity survey. Okay, you can see me. Okay. So I took some inspiration from Omega Working Group's survey document, where I'm actually going to paste that in there right now. This best practices.
I am not seeing the screen yet.
Oh, you're not?
If you want, I can share the screen, and you can tell me how do I scroll the document.
That's fine, yeah. So yeah, I took the best practices, took inspiration from best practices of the Omega Working Group, and wrote some research goals at that. I also am hoping can double as introduction to people taking the survey. But that's very welcoming to feedback on that, and people to come in and see how they feel about the phrasing and etc. Now we're on below that, observations, feelings, needs, requests. OFNR is a framework from nonviolent communication that we can use to like analyze and better understand both the creation of the survey and the responses that people bring into us. So those observation without evaluation, feelings, you know, whether our needs are met or unmet will reflect in our feelings, and we all have the same needs, and the requests are respecting the needs of all parties. That's like just the general idea of OFNR that can be applied. One thing that I think is important to keep in mind is, you know, for one thing, we're asking questions that could be sensitive. People are going to talk about people that they work with. if we want to get the best results, we want to be able to really ensure that people, that their privacy is going to be protected, and like GDPR is real. And it would just be, I don't know how we can do this, but somehow, whether it's after we get the response, if we can somehow separate their name and their email from, so that if we have like a data leak and this whole thing gets out there, it's not correlated with everybody's personal information. And do you want to go down to the needs behind the conflict section? Because I don't know, that's a good, that's,
Can I just make a technical suggestion around that?
Yeah.
With regard to the survey, I know when I use HubSpot, HubSpot has a tremendous amount of built-in GPDR compliance stuff when it comes to collecting information and other things. We had previously had a conversation about how we were going to perhaps use HubSpot in some capacity. I just wanted to see, I don't know where that went to, but I'm sure it's also true that things like SurveyMonkey and other stuff would also have built-in GPDR compliance stuff. So what I was just suggesting is that maybe we could review what stuff we're already using with respect to that kind of thing, and then see if we could leverage it. So thanks.
Yeah, that's great. I just know that with Typeform, which is what we've been using for a lot of things, Typeform, we are responsible for all that. Typeform, so
Right.
that is
yeah. So with HubSpot, you could use a form that they make, and then it would be collected in a GPDR compliant fashion based on the structure that they've already made. So that may be just a technical point that we could shift on. I know Chris at one point was dealing with redoing some of the Discord things, and I had an in-depth discussion with him about my experience with HubSpot in the past. If I need to redo that conversation with someone else who's now responsible for it, I'm happy to do that. So thank you.
Check out HubSpot. I added that in a note. So that's, yeah. And I didn't like delve too deeply into that. There's probably but it's just something good to consider. So thank you for that, Durgadus. Yeah, and the needs behind the conflict section definitely came directly from the inspiration of Durgadus, who shared this wheel of needs. And then I took all the conflicts that had been collected between just some little bit of research that I did and what Juan Carlos had collected in a previous document, and I actually broke them down into, I came up with a need. Okay, so the idea is that everybody has the same needs, and that we should all come up with a need vocabulary of like 9 or 10 words that in your regular language express human need in that. And so that's what I did, is I tried to find the words that best describe those core universal needs that I feel comfortable using in my language. And then I broke down all the example conflicts, and I highlighted and italicized all need words. And so the idea is just that if we focus on, okay, we all have the same needs, and we don't get addicted to our strategies for fulfilling those needs, that all the needs can be met. And that is basically, that's the core of, kind of conflict resolution in a nonviolent communication kind of idea.
Can I just rephrase that a little bit?
Yeah.
The thing that I take out of this is the core of conflict resolution to me is to make sure that all the participants don't create enemy images out of each other. And so as I brought spiral dynamics and integral theory and these other things in, it was with this view that it would be possible to understand the perspective of these people and where they're coming from, as opposed to creating an enemy image out of them and sort of stopping my ability to have an open ear toward what it is that they have going on. So everything else that I've sort of brought to the group has been sort of based in this core thing that I learned out of NVC, which was to not create enemy images out of people. And so I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood why I had kind of would have motivated me to bring that stuff in. And that was a big lesson that I got of years of making these NVC groups. So I just wanted to maybe point that out.
Yeah, thank you. Your feedback is definitely welcome.
Well, we are in the top of the hour, and I want to thank you all for coming, and also congratulate Dan, because this is amazing. And I think that this guide of
Well done.
having needs and like how can we find those needs can be super helpful in our organization and in the entire ecosystem. So yeah, we can for sure keep working on this, and great job.
Okay, I just have one thing really quick before we all go. If, just a little homework assignment, if you can find 10 minutes or 20 minutes to check out this gravity survey document, I'll drop the link in the chat, and check out those needs in the needs behind the conflict section. And just please, just put a comment or write in there if you have any words that you feel better express that need.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.